What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Daily Groomer podcast. I'm your host, Alex Martin, and today we have on Aaryn Mistrot. Mistro like bistro. I learned that right before the episode, but I love it. Aaryn is the owner of Tailored Tails of Lubbock, a boutique boarding, daycare, and grooming, what I would call a resort. They are a Daily Groomer Top Grooming Business 2024 winner, and Aaryn has a little bit of a secret sauce. She's up to 18 employees now, all grown in-house. And so I brought her on today to learn a little bit more about how she did that, how she's done that with such low employee turnover and with such high morale. Aaryn, thanks so much for coming on today.
Hi, thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, thanks so much. And congrats on the award last year. I don't think I've actually talked to you since you won that. So that's incredible. You can add it to your stack of other awards I've seen on the website, which is awesome.
Yes.
Okay, let's start back in the beginning. So you and your son, I believe, started Tailored Tails back in 2020, was it?
Yes. So actually it was kind of a terrifying start, right? So we had decided that actually we were grooming dogs out of our house, which was going really well. We weren't really trying to do that for a living necessarily, but my husband was like, "Oh, this is great. You can just work from home," because we had a 9-month-old at the time. So we decided I did a German Shepherd D-shed in my house, and my husband said, "Okay, you need a salon. This is not going to work."
Said, that's the last time we're doing that.
Yeah, I think he's still pulling that hair out of his paperclip container. So we found a space, and it was at that time it was a new little shopping center. So it's like a retail shopping center kind of place, and we signed our lease in November of 19, and we were supposed to open March 1st of 2020. And of course, COVID happened. The shutdown happened in February, and Trevor, my son, and I looked at each other and went, "What have we done? Like, this is horrible.
We're so screwed. We're in trouble."
Right. Yeah. Like, just forget it. We're done. And fortunately, everybody was home with their pets. People were adopting pets that hadn't had them before because they didn't have time for them or whatever. And they were adopting dogs now that they're home with them. And even though we weren't able to open in March, they did get us open by July the 2nd of 2020. Okay. So that's when we kind of opened. We were terrified because of COVID that we weren't going to be able to make it float. But we took walk-in appointments for 2 weeks. And then we were booked for 3 months out, and we thought, "Oh crap, we need to hire somebody."
and wait, before we even go further, why do you think it just like all of a sudden you guys were booked all out? Because I bet that wasn't expected. One minute you guys think you're not going to survive as a business as soon as you start, and the next minute you're fully booked. We need another employee.
Yeah, exactly. We knew that for a really good, high quality grooming service in our area, which is a fairly small town, that we knew that the need was there for that higher quality. We knew that
demand was there.
Yeah, we knew that the demand was there because they were coming to my house, right? They're coming to my house, and so we knew we had kind of a following already. Sure. We just taking it to that next step to take on the expense of a brick and mortar salon during the middle of COVID. We were just like, I don't know if this is going to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, the minute that we opened, and people were literally just stopping in to check us out. Lubbock is small enough that we're just under 300,000 maybe. Yeah. It's small enough that if a new business opens, people notice it.
People are curious. Yeah.
Yeah.
They want to just chime in and see what this new place on the block is. Okay. So did you close off walk-ins once you filled up the schedule?
Yeah. We had no choice. Yeah, we haven't taken walk-ins since then.
And it was just you grooming at the time, right?
It was me and Trevor. I mean, he obviously grew up in the industry with me. So he knew how to do most things. So he was kind of assisting me and doing a lot of some of the prep work and stuff for me. And then I would finish out. He was learning to groom a lot more because really he had no choice.
Yeah, right. If we're
I'm like, here, groom this dog.
Yeah, right. Pick up these scissors here, Trevor. We got to get going, man.
Yes. So he learned pretty quickly. He did a really good job. Although that's not, his calling is actually more on the financial and the business side of things, and actually setting up he does all of our IT stuff and all of that. He's very, very busy, kind of jack of all trades, and also manages the boarding and play care side of things too. So he's kind of got his fingers in all the pies. So scissors are no longer his focus, but
traded the shears for keyboard.
Yeah, exactly. And he's really good at what he does. So it's funny because everybody says, what does Trevor even do? And then when he's gone for a day, they're like, where's Trevor?
Yeah, the place falls apart. Yeah, we all know someone like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so trying to get myself in that place. We're brand new during COVID, but we're full. We think we need more help. Did you have conviction right away that, hey, I'm actually just going to try and find someone with no experience and train them in-house because I want them to do it my way, and that's the way that we're going to grow this business? Or was that something that just kind of happened by chance?
So I think initially I really didn't think about a preference. What I did know was that, like, the clients that were coming in and the things that they were telling me and what I could see on their dog had been done previously. I just felt like that I didn't want to try and take someone. I thought it would actually take longer and be more stressful to try and take someone who already had a system in place as far as their grooming, what they were doing, had their habits down, and try and change that. I thought would be a lot more difficult because I don't consider myself like a natural teacher. Mm-hmm. So for me to have to try and explain to someone why this way is actually a different way. It's not that it's necessarily better or worse, but it's a different way than they've been doing for maybe 10, 15 years. I just didn't feel like I could handle that level of stress. Yeah. In addition to, what I was already doing. So fair. I was like, let me just get somebody in. I mean, I can, if somebody really wants to learn it, you can teach a monkey to bathe a dog. Yeah. But you have to have that person with the right mentality towards it and the right attitude.
Want to learn. I mean, you can't teach them if they don't want to. Okay. So what'd you do? Did you put out just a job listing, or you found a friend, or?
So initially, I believe, I'm trying to think. I think the first person that we hired actually reached out to us and with a phone call, asked if we were hiring.
Nice.
So and no experience, just barely out of high school. And she, of course, and every other salon owner is going to relate to me on this. The very first thing that they say when they come in is, "Oh, I love dogs." Because I always ask, what makes you think you want to do this? I love dogs. I've always loved dogs. I have 4 dogs. Well, loving dogs and working with dogs are 2 totally different things.
Right. Exactly.
So, you have to have this patience level that you don't necessarily have to have when you love dogs.
Right.
And you have to have, some pretty good, you can't have a weak stomach, and you can't, there's certain qualities that you kind of have to have in order to really thrive as a groomer, and be patient and be willing to take criticism and learn that, every single dog is different, even if it's the same breed. Yeah. And to start evaluating skin and coat and doing some of those educational things that, seem to some people seem a little bit overkill. Sure. But that's where our quality comes into play. So it was very important to me to find someone who was willing to learn all that and very open to learn.
I mean, totally makes sense. And when I'm going to assume you found that person for employee 1, right? Did you build out a training plan that took this person from scratch to experienced, or did you just kind of build one on the fly?
I kind of built it on the fly because we were just so busy that it was like, grab a dog.
Your business at the time.
Yeah, it was like just get to going. So the way that our salon was set up, and it's still kind of set up this way, the all the groomers are kind of together in a room, and we were a very small space back then. So our bath area and our drying tables and our kennel room were all kind of very close together. So to be able to, train somebody, okay, watch what I do on bathing this dog, and then I'm going to have you bathe the dog that's very similar. And I'm going to tell you, as you're going along, what we're going to do. And then, blow drying, very important. So we're working on that together, but we are able to be side by side. So while I'm doing one, she's doing one, and we're just really doing
nice.
it side by
side. I feel like it helps you not only learn by watching someone do it, but if you can do it right next to them as well.
Yeah. And that helped a lot. And like I said, it would be a situation where, she and Trevor would have their dogs on the table, and I'd have my dog on the table. I'd finish mine, and I'd just go down the row and make sure that theirs were all good, and do any touch-ups or mention any touch-ups they needed to do. And then, I would groom 2 dogs while they were getting started on the next 2, so we were able to kind of do it like that. And I would just go down and do a quality check and kind of do some fine tuning, touch-ups and everything to make sure that everything was good. And that kind of just became my training. And actually, I would say back then I probably was really bad at explaining what I'm doing and why. It was more like, okay, watch what I do and do that.
And just try and copy. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Let me do this side, you do that side.
It's really easy to fall into that habit too. You still had, I would imagine, a full book of business for yourself at that time, where it's like, hey, I've got 6, 7, 8 dogs today. Just stand next to me and watch what I do, and I'll try and explain why I'm doing it, and just ask questions if you have them, right? Versus, all right, hey, I don't have, but 3, 4 dogs today. Let me sit here and explain why we're doing this and how it works and why we do the things we do. It makes sense that, in the beginning, you're just kind of like, hey, watch this. Like, let me know if you have any questions.
Right. And I think because it is such a hands-on profession, I think that's kind of, it is kind of, we don't really explain what we do. We're not really explaining to the client why we hold the scissors this way or that way. It's something that we learn over time. And then, when you're teaching someone else to do it, it's a habit. So you don't realize that you need to explain that.
Good point. It is a habit. Yeah. And you're not thinking about why you're doing it anymore. That makes sense.
Right. And I asked one of my mentors at that time, I'm like, I'm a really bad teacher. I think I don't think this is for me, this teaching new people. And he said, what you need to do is talk your groom out loud. So you just groom your dog, but say what you're doing as you're doing it.
Okay.
And that'll get the words coming into your mouth and in the habit of actually explaining what you're doing. And I was like, oh, okay, great. So I started that, and it worked. And now I can actually explain the whys. And it just took me forever because it was like, there was no words. I was just all really just habit.
I feel. Okay. So take me up to today with that. That was training employee 1.
Yes.
Now you guys have 18.
Yes.
How is the training plan? Let's call it. That might even be too formal of a word, but let's use that for this case. How is the training plan evolved now that you've done it, let's say 18 times, and it's more standardized now, I would imagine? How has it changed?
So, actually we do have kind of a plan now. We do have like a training schedule. When we hire someone, the very first thing that we do is start them out in bath. Every single person starts out in bath because skin and coat is a big focus for us. I think all but maybe 2 of us are certified estheticians for skin and coat. So we are very focused on that. And of course, we're not going to take a brand new person because we do hire people with no experience. That's our preference. We're not going to take them and just inundate them with all this skin and coat care. That's just way overwhelming. So what we do is we just, okay, here's where you start. And we're going to, because there's so many different coats and everything takes a long time. And when somebody comes on and say, okay, understand that to really be, a good groomer and be able to, really make some good money and have your regular clients, it's going to take you about 2 years, 2 to 2.5 years to get there from here. But, we're going to help you along the way, the whole way. So we start them on bath, and once they kind of get a handle on that, by that time, we usually know if this is going to be for them or not. One of the things that I do that's different than anybody else is I do an observation day. If they want to, if they're interested, if they've applied, we've interviewed, they're interested in pursuing the job, I do an observation day. And that's an unpaid day where they come in. Not only do they get to see what's going on, but they get to ask questions. I'm not hovering, they're just hanging out. They get to ask, do you like your job? Do you like your coworkers? Do you like your managers? They can ask all the ugly questions.
Yeah. That's really transparent. Honestly, makes me a little bit scared as, if I owned a salon and had that. But I like the accountability, right? I mean, it forces you every day to think about, hey, the key to me growing my team is actually treating my current team extremely well.
Well, and there's a safety factor to it as well. Okay. Right. If anybody that's done this for any amount of time knows that if tensions are high, the dogs immediately pick up on that. And dogs that may have been table trained for decades, and now all of a sudden they're trying to leap off the table because they know there's something going on. They don't know what it is. For them, it could be buildings on fire. They don't know. They smell your pheromones and they feel that tension and they react to it. So the more cohesive the team can be, the more calm it can be between each other. They don't have those kind of things going on. And the dogs are more relaxed. And that's a safety issue because the more they wiggle, the higher the chance of injury. So it's minimizing some of those risks as well. And to me, that's more important for the safety of the dogs than worrying about what they think, what somebody is going to think about what we're doing here, or whatever.
That makes sense. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So new person, affinity for dogs, wants to learn, wants to get into grooming, wants to become a great groomer, goes to the premier grooming place in Lubbock. You tell me, I come in for my observation day. Mm-hmm. I'm in, I'm full in. I'm like, Aaryn, I want to do this. Let's start. You tell me it's going to take me 2 years till I have shears in my hand and I have my own book of clients. Walk me through, and we start with baths. Walk me through what that 2 years realistically looks like. Okay. I know it's probably different for everyone.
It is a little different for everyone. But what we do is, after your observation day, we sit down. Yes, do you want to do this? It's something you think you'd enjoy. And then, of course, if you say yes, then I say, okay, now we're going to start what I call a contract week, where you're just a contract employee. There's no obligation. You're going to get your hands on a little bit. You're going to start to really learn how to properly bathe the dog professionally, and see if you still like it at the end of that week. At the end of that week, I'm going to pay you cash. It's all contract. You can say, this is not what I thought it was. This is not what I want to do. That's okay. Not offended. We're not upset by that at all. This job is not for everyone. Right. And we know that. So, and that's great. Then, you've learned a little something, why you pay so much to get your own dog groomed now, at the very least. And you've had a little bit of experience, and at the same time, it gives my team a chance to get to know them and work with them and see if that's a fit for my existing team as well. During that time, like I said, you're getting your hands dirty. You're learning to bathe the dog and learning to trim some toenails a little bit, just to kind of get your feet wet, sometimes literally. And then, at the end of that, yes, you want to go. We think it's a good fit. Sometimes we'll extend a contract week if it's, maybe something's happened, or that, we feel like maybe they just need a little more time because, sometimes introverted people, it takes a little longer to kind of get a feel for if they really are going to like it. And then at the end of that, we say, okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start you on bath. And usually what happens is during the bath time, usually is between 6 and 9 months. And the reason that part is so long is because that's when we're really teaching all of the skin and coat necessities. We're teaching really super coats we use a lot as a teaching tool. You know, a lot of our esthetician certification materials and different things like this to really get, you know, we're teaching how to spot skin problems. If we see a problem, what is it? You know, not really a diagnostic, but more of just okay, how do we treat this safely with just trying to get the dog clean and not furthering an issue that may be there.
Sure.
And then, so there's a lot of information involved in that. And then I have what's called a bather test out. It's pretty extensive. It's not a sit down and take a test per se, but it's more of a working test. Okay. There's some, you know, little questions that are like multiple choice trick questions kind of thing. You know, my salon director, so she's like, well, that's what we get for you going to law school. And I'm like, yeah, that was brilliant. I'm the only dog groomer in the world that went to law school to be a dog groomer. But yeah, so we have a little bit of that, but there's also case studies in there where I really want them to sit down and think, okay, here's a scenario. A client comes in with the dog. Okay. And then another part of that is breed research. So they have to, you know, research a dog out of each of the 7 groups. And, you know, really it needs to be a dog that they're going to see fairly frequently in the salon and really kind of get a handle on the history of those breeds and why they are the way they are, why we're dealing with all of the shedding and hair. What's that? Right. You know, so by the time that they finish the bather test out and they have a really good grip on bath, they know pretty much everything except how to set a pattern and scissor properly. Yeah. So that's really the bulk of it.
I like that though. I mean, you're getting someone extremely familiar with 80 to 90% of a day in the life of being a groomer without ever picking up a pair of shears, which sounds impossible if we were to just like, you know, rewind 5-10 minutes and not say anything or not hear anything that you just said there. But I like how you actually did that because it also acts as like a filter function for like, hey, do you actually want to do this or not?
Right. And a lot of people, a lot of salon owners, and that, you know, some of my really good friends do it this way where they tend to, they go for like almost a partial commission based bather pay structure where they're able to make a lot more money. And I have kind of a gradual stair step because
that was my next question is how are they progressing maybe on this 2 years? Because like, you know, even if I'm bought in, at the end of the day, if the salon down the street is saying we'll pay you X if you come over right now and we'll start, it gets enticing.
Right. And the thing is that I'm not at, and I'm not that place. And I always tell them, look, this is really, I'm hiring people that want to learn this profession. Right. I'm not hiring people that need to make money quickly and pay their bills. Right. That's not what this is. So, you know, I always say Chick-fil-A can pay you more if, you know, and you'll have every Sunday off. You know, I get like, I'm really not trying to compete with that. Uh-huh. So I started, you know, it's above minimum wage by a few dollars, but I started very low. And the reason I do that is because it does need to be somebody that wants to be here for learning. And for that reason, it is literally on the job learning, training. So, you know, it's a huge investment for us as well. And, you know, they need to put some investment in there too. And that's where that comes into play. Now they do step up a little bit, you know, over time, just with, you know, incremental raises. Right. And then usually just before they start grooming, I would say the last 2 to 3 months, that person is usually lead bath. So what the lead bath is doing is helping train a new person. They are learning all of the equipment at that point, like how to maintain the equipment. They're learning all of our, because they're in bather test out mode, right? Yes. So they're learning all of our products, what they do, what the ingredients do. They're breaking down all of that. Wow. Okay. So it's a lot. We teach a lot in the bather section. Yeah. And then they come, you know, onto the table and they're already familiar with all the dogs they're going to see.
Yeah.
They've been working with them for months.
Right. And maybe even some of the clients that they'd be working with.
Absolutely. And then they're also familiar with all the different coat types and how those coats react to blow drying a certain way or brushing a certain way.
How they naturally lay.
Yeah,
Does.
exactly. So they're learning all of those things as the bather. So when they hit the table, they're super familiar with, Teddy, the doodle. They've bathed him every 3 weeks for the last 9
Well,
months.
then you're only focused on one thing too. You already know how Teddy the doodle acts. You already know where he doesn't like to be touched and where he does. Right. You already know his breed standard, and how the hair should lay, and et cetera, how the formulas will react to his skin, all that sort of jazz.
Yes.
And when you are on that table, maybe for the first few times, you're just worried about what's in your hands, right? You're not worried about all the other elements.
Right. And, because the holds are so different, safe hold techniques are different on the grooming table than they are on the drying table. That's a place where I really want them to focus initially coming out onto the table is their holds, their safe holds, and their animal handling. So, and we're going to, even during their bather test out, I'm going to have them practicing, scissor holds and how to scissor without ever actually cutting hair off the dog yet. And we do the model dog thing sometimes, but mostly it's, you're familiar with Teddy, you know what he's about. So, he's not going to like this foot held. So
right.
as on the drying table, you held this way. On the grooming table, you're going to hold this way. And then, scissor angle and things like that come next.
Okay. So is that post my 2 years, once I do my bather test out, I've been that lead bather. Do I graduate and then become a full groomer?
Yeah, and basically may not take too. I mean, the fastest one I ever did was my little salon manager now, Megan. She was an art major, and she just picked up the shapes super easily, and she's so good with the dogs. But she, I would say she knew what she was doing. She's competition level now. She just competed at Pet Pro last year, so she's phenomenal. But people don't normally pick it up that quickly, but I always say 2 to 2.5 years because I don't want you to be disappointed or feel rushed. I want you to be comfortable in what you're doing, and I don't want you to feel like you're behind or, something like that. What always happens, I mean, it's very rare that somebody's at the 2-year mark and I still feel like they need more assistance and more training. It's usually around 1.5 years, where they've been, I would say, on a grooming table for 6 to 8 months, where they're already making the same commission as most of my other groomers.
Wow.
So
that's pretty good. Okay. So then let's bring this full picture here. Have all, and obviously 18 employees. I'm sure we've got, we've got our, tech team, right? I'm sure we've got a receptionist, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Have all of our groomers gone through this program, if we were to call it that?
All except for one.
Okay.
And I love her to pieces. She's a wonderful person, but she did have a grooming background. And I told her initially, I'm like, the hardest thing is going to be etch-a-sketching your head and getting all of these old habits out of your head so that you do things a different way. And of course, I require continuing education hours. So that helps kind of back up what I'm telling them. Like, I'm not just making this up for my own, this is actually current information. But, she has struggled considerably trying to change her ways. However, I will say that, when she did come on, I'm like, you have to start on bath because we do bath different than other people. So I need you to know and also become familiar with the products that we use and how we do things so that when the bather comes and asks you, is there anything specific you need me to do to this dog? You know what you're working with back there. So she did, I did require her to bathe for probably about 6 weeks prior to going to the grooming table.
Do you think having your team go through this kind of 2-week program has affected your culture? Like has made your culture stronger, made people want to stick around because they've gone through that kind of 2-year training program?
Absolutely. I mean, I think everybody works as a very cohesive team. And part of that is raising that culture. So we're able to have, someone who's Jewish, someone who's Christian, someone who's atheist, someone who's transgender, someone who's LGBT, and everybody's in there together.
Yeah.
And they will sometimes have some pretty deep discussions, but they're very respectful of each other.
There's that level of trust there and respect.
Yeah, because it really is a team environment, and it has to do with, the personalities that we cultivate and giving them that time to get to know us and us to get to know them to see if it's a good fit.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Without having to go through all the payroll run around,
100%. And that was just one thing is like, as you were explaining your process that was sitting back of my mind for me was I'm like, you know what? Kind of a added benefit of making folks go through this and kind of building this out is that it probably does some wondrous things to your employee turnover because people feel bought in with what you guys are doing. And they're not just kind of in for the money and out for the next, high paying offer that comes their way. Cause it is kind of like I always say it's a groomer's market. Like if you are skilled, you could probably walk in anywhere and say, hey, I want this cost because I'm skilled or I want this price because I'm skilled and I know you need the help. Right. So building a culture that's bought into what you guys are doing is so important for employee turnover. Do you have any other tips to, building and maintaining a great team?
I think one of the things that we do is we have 2 employee functions a year that are at my house. Because one of them's kind of a holiday party and the other one's like a summer cookout. But we do that because it kind of makes everyone gets to participate in planning these things. So it's more of a family get together type thing. And I would say, as we continue to grow and expand and we're looking at our second location, feels like right around the corner, but it's about a year and a half from now. But the thing is, having that, we still want to have the culture of the people together. So when you're trying to build a culture like that in this environment, in a grooming environment, which is, very high stress, loud, it's not like you can have a conversation while you're blow drying a dog, right? So to be able to pull those things together and have those people, there's a lot of someone will make enchiladas or buy pizza or whatever. And so we really try and kind of have this culture of doing those things. And some of the younger ones will go, like, they'll meet up for boba tea or whatever, and, or line dancing or whatever they do.
And all that kind of stuff just happens naturally, I bet.
Again, it does. It does.
With people. That makes sense. As we kind of close out here, I want to actually see if there's a connection. When we were talking before we hit record, you had mentioned that you guys hit your first $1 million in revenue in November of 2023. And now you guys were on track to almost double that over the past year. I want to talk about, do you think any of that has a relation to building the team that you have and maintaining the culture that you have?
It absolutely 100% does. I mean, I tell my team all the time, I could not do this without any single one of them. Like, they are that important, regardless of how long they've been here or what their title is. They are that important to me. And, if anytime we've won an award that has money with it, I completely just give it all to them and split it all between them, because that's not what we're in it for. But it gives them a sense of pride in kind of their own sense of ownership. And so when you do that, they not only want to stay, but they will literally go to, once a month, they have this thing here called Art Walk. They'll go down there together, and because people have their dogs out there, and they're actively recruiting clients to come in for consultations. And that's something that if they didn't care about each other and the company, they wouldn't do that. It's not required.
Yeah. Right. And that, Aaryn, is something you can't teach. After 2 years of teaching everything from coat to product to how to hold shears, you cannot teach someone's caring about the company, right?
Yeah,
And that's just
absolutely.
a side, side added benefit of building the culture that you've built. That's pretty cool. That's really cool,
Well,
honestly.
thanks. I mean, it happened accidentally, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah.
And and I'll say, it's all sunshine and rainbows. It sounds like, but there's people that don't work out. There's people that
Right. Yeah.
don't fit.
Yeah.
And we have that happen, and we're just like, it's we're not saying that you can't be a dog groomer. It's just you're not what Tailored Tails is looking for. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I mean, all that to say still, this, the way you've gone about training and hiring and just carefully crafting, let's call it, like this
yeah.
program here.
Yeah.
It probably is the reason that you're able to hang on to some of these higher quality groomers that, maybe you wouldn't have had a shot with before.
Yeah, for sure. And I love every single one of them so much. They're my family now,
Yeah, of course.
and I really, it's funny because these companies always say, you're not just an employee, you're our family,
Yeah.
and we tease about that all the time because we really are like family. So
yeah, that's awesome. Well, as we kind of round out here, Aaryn, I want to give you a chance to shout out Tailored Tails, more so just for other groomers in the audience and other business owners to go take a look at what you guys are doing and see what they can learn. So I don't know what the best place to shout out here, if that's a website or Facebook page or.
yeah, absolutely. Our Facebook page has, we just kind of use that to keep our current clientele entertained. But for sure, our website has a lot of information and some links to some other landing pages and where we go for continuing education, which is www.tailoredtailsoflubbock.com.
Perfect.
And anybody can also call me if they have any questions or want to learn anything else. And our number here is 806-201-5313.
You don't get that every day. You don't get a number on the podcast every day. So Aaryn, I appreciate you for being so transparent about it.
Sure, I'll help anybody. It's all worth it.
Awesome. And next time I'm in Lubbock, I gotta get in there.
Yeah, for sure. Come check it out. You'll like it.
Well, cool. Well, Aaryn, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate you sharing everything you did about how to build and hire a great team. Again, it's no surprise with the team that you have, the company and the culture that you guys have built, and all the awards that you guys won. So keep doing you, keep rocking it, and we'll definitely have you back on the show at some point. We'll see if we beat our numbers next year.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me, Alex. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, guys. And that is the pod.